Go ahead. Yep.
Okay. So you're probably wondering what this, I mean you guys know what this is from my hand, but you're probably wondering why I have it. So today, what we're going to do, to start out, we are going to discuss what a fanfare is. What a fanfare is and what a fugue is. So we can tell in the title of our piece, fanfare and fugue, right? We talked about this a little bit last time. And, ooh, this is gonna, let's just shrink it. Don't let it fall. All right, so a fanfare. Does anybody have a guess as to what a fanfare is?
Probably the YBRRS.
Probably.
Might sound a little pompous.
Little pompous? What's another word for pompous?
Stuck up.
Well, I mean, thinking musically.
Confident and authority.
Yeah. So for example, if you guys have seen a movie, you've probably heard this. So this would be an example of a fanfare. See if you can figure out what it's from. Have we heard this before? So it's the 20th Century Fox theme. You probably heard it when you're eating your popcorn in the movie theater, getting ready to watch a movie, right? So that's an example of a fanfare. Another example of a fanfare, see if we can figure out what this is. Okay, while we're waiting for that video, we'll do the other example. So another example of a fanfare comes from a guy named Aaron Copeland, and he had a piece titled Fanfare for the Common Man. So generally one thing, well, we'll talk about that afterwards.
It's a trombone.
Close. It's a trumpet. Trumpets all playing in unison. So even from those two clips, what are some things that we noticed that were the same?
There was percussion.
There was percussion. Yeah, Zach. And where was the percussion? Was it at the end? Beginning. Good. So that's one thing. What's something else?
There's no wood.
No woodwinds. Yeah. So fanfares are typically for brass, generally trumpets. Yeah. Good. So that is a fanfare. So to translate that into our playing, let's go from 1 to 25. So this is one of our fanfare sections. So that begin. 1, 2, ready? Here, let's do that again. Sorry, that was poor on my part. All right, here we go. We'll just come in right at the front. So now let's move to the part at the end. So let's go to...
I was a woodwind though.
Oh, sorry, what was that?
I thought I played woodwind instrument.
You do play a woodwind instrument. So fanfares don't always have to be for just brass. So I think what Anne McGinty was trying to get across here, almost, what Anne McGinty was trying to get across here was that a fanfare is the celebratory, the regal, kind of pompous, like we talked about, that opening before we lead into the fugue. So in this case, woodwinds get to be like brass players. Yeah, so let's go at...
Posers.
Oh, fighting words. All right, let's go at 55. 1, 2, 1 to 8? Lots of things, right? Good. All right, so let's look at measure 8. So where we have that retard. So there are some really interesting things that are happening here. And to realize what parts move and what parts stay, we're going to go beat by beat. So the first beat will be given, you'll get beat 1. And then the next key will be beat 2. And if you have a half note, be sure to just hold the beats through. So if you have 2 half notes, beat 1 when you're given the note, you play it. And then beat 2, you'll stay on that note. Does that make sense? All right. So beat 1 of measure 8. So this would be clarinets as well. All right, so this is beat 1 right here. Just hold that. All right, now beat 2. So that's where the lows move. Then beat 3. So no, good. And then beat 4. All right, can we go beat 3 and beat 4 again? And alto and French horn, I want you to bring out what you have, okay? So everybody be listening to what the alto and the French horn have. So here's beat 3 of measure 8. Beat 3. Good. Awesome.
I have that part too. Do you want me to play out?
You do have that part. Yes, Sarah. Go right ahead. Yep. So let's do that again. So that we can get Sarah in. Sorry about that. So beat 3. Awesome. So they move, right? This is what we're discovering. So those guys have the moving parts. So when you have the moving parts, bring that out. And for those of you who are playing there, who don't move, be sure to move out of the way. Give them room. All right? Awesome. So let's put that all together. Let's just do measures 7 and 8. So 7. 1, 2, ready? And. Sure to watch the guitar. Yay! Awesome. Okay, so what's happening there, that we'll talk about more in a little bit, we're moving from a 5 chord into a 5/7 chord, so they're adding that. But we'll talk more about that because you're probably looking at me like. So now moving on to talking about the fugue. So this would be from measures 9 to 54 when we have all the moving parts. So, does anybody know what a fugue is? Bach. Okay. He kind of coined what a fugue was. Yeah, not a fugue. Anything else that we can think of? Okay. So the fancy definition of a fugue, which is indicated in my score. So a fugue is a type of contrapuntal, that's a really big word, meaning 2 or more independent lines. So it's a contrapuntal composition for a specified number of parts or voices, so in this case, band. The essential feature of a fugue is that the entrances of all the voices imitate one another. So do we know what imitate means? Does anybody know what imitate means? Copycat, yeah. Kind of like what? Remind, sort of, yeah. That's a good way to think about it. So, some examples of some fugues, being that it's almost Halloween. I feel like you guys will know this one. Technology. Are you guys excited for Halloween? Got your costumes all figured out? I do too.
What are you going to be?
Not telling. You'll find out.
What kind of candy are you going to have?
What kind of candy am I going to have? Well, again, you're going to have to wait.
Reese's.
All right, ready? Here we go. Let's see if you recognize this. Sounds kind of spooky, right? Okay, so that's an example of a fugue. What are some things you're hearing?
An organ.
An organ, yep. Fugues are typically written for organ, but again, in this case, we're not an organ, right? But we have to imitate and sound like one, right? All right, so that's an example of a fugue. Does that make more sense as to what a fugue is? A little bit? A little bit? Okay, well, for time's sake, we're going to move on with some of the stuff in the fugue. Oh, way to think about fugues if you're still a little confused, because I see a couple of confused faces. So imagine that you and a few friends are in a car race, or you're watching like NASCAR on TV or drag racing, whatever. You all have to take the same route, but if you try to drive in the same place at the same time, you'll probably get in a car wreck, which we don't want, right? So instead, you decide that one person starts first, and then the rest follow one by one as you reach certain checkpoints. Okay?
So who comes in last place?
You do.
Well, no. So here's the really cool thing about this piece. So what Anne McGinty does, she takes the melody and starts it in the trumpet, and then where does it move next? Where does it come in?
I can tell you when I'm going to play it.
I can tell you once we play it. Well, how about we play it and then we'll ask that question, okay? So let's go just measures 9 to 25. So at measure 9. Ready? So this is where it first comes in. Where does it happen next? Finally, last but not least. Good. All right. So indeterminate starts in the trumpet, then where does it go?
Sarah.
Well, kind of. Saxophone, clarinet. Then where does it go? Lows. And finally, who do we have left? Well, you and the oboe. Yeah. Not just you, Christy. All right, awesome. So that's where it moves. So kind of like we talked about with the car race, right? We start over here, and then these guys are gaining, and then those guys come in, and then they're catching up. Now, something else that's very interesting, when we go at measure 33, let's have everybody at 33. So this is where the lows are starting with the melody.
Oh, first place.
Yeah, there we go. Ready? Ready? All right, then where does it go? Keep it moving. Try not to slow down. All right, finally. Awesome. All right, and trumpet, when you have those eighth notes in measure 47, be sure to rip those out, okay? Because you're the only one there. All right, so where did it start that time? Back in the lows. And then where did it move to? Flute and oboe, and then where?
Trumpet. It's
Well,
playing the
the trumpet. And then where? Those of you left, right?
So you weren't even in the place. There's only 3 places, and you have 4.
We're all winners in band, right? Yes, Trevor. I have not. I have not. That wasn't a very appropriate question for right now, but yeah. That was good. All right, let's get everybody back in playing, and let's go from 55 to the end to close it out, okay? All right, so remember that fanfare quality.